Game music. It's the melodic element designed to captivate our emotions and immerse us in the world of the game. The way it harmonizes with the visuals helps to deliver a truly memorable experience. Sometimes, these songs are reborn in brilliant new form. Welcome to Melodies of Gaming, a musical series that explores reimagined songs and official game titles and how they capture the essence of the action. In this special episode, we will examine the music of Animal Crossing: New Horizons for the Nintendo Switch and how the reprised themes have changed from the originals of their respective games. I'm Matthew Kierkegaard, but you may know me as Peach Toadstool.
And I'm Dan Koopman, also known as Nintendan.
For today, we have the great pleasure of introducing Thomas from Thomas Game Docs, whose YouTube channel features interesting little-known stories of gaming history and trivia about the music in games.
Hi there.
Our musical adventure first will take us through a short retrospective of the past Animal Crossing titles and our experiences with them and their soundtracks. To start at a checkpoint, please review the progress bar or the timestamps in the description. Now, let's begin this melodious journey.
In 2001, the very first Animal Crossing game released in Japan on the Nintendo 64, titled Dobotsu no Mori, translating to Animal Forest. It introduced people to relaxing life in a forest village filled with sentient animals, fishing, bug catching, home decoration, and a real-time calendar system with holidays and events. The game featured the same models and music found in the later GameCube release, right down to identical polygons and MIDI samples. The music was written by the talented Kazumi Totaka, whose diverse music and sound design have been mainstays for all of the core games in the series. The hourly themes were all creatively distinct from one another, and KK Slider, who was a canine caricature of Totaka, presented songs of a variety of genres and cultures. One could say the soundtrack was an experience as imaginative as the game itself.
My series adventure started with Animal Crossing on the Nintendo GameCube, released in Europe in 2004. The game was very similar to the original, adding the Able Sisters tailor shop, a museum for creatures and art, and an island to visit, as well as some custom designs and playable NES games to collect. At the age of 14, I was instantly surprised by how open and immersive it felt. Everything seemed left up to chance, with events scattered throughout the day and week. At a time when the internet didn't usually have guides at launch, I had to play in the moment and watch how the world evolved around me. It's like my experience wasn't completely under my control. Instead, I was being guided on an unpredictable journey with charming animals. Even playing with a friend was special. To do so, it was necessary to plug in an additional memory card to visit their town, which was rather unique at the time. Unique. That is the magic word to describe the GameCube version of Animal Crossing. Somehow it felt a tad different from anything that came out afterwards.
I too almost started with this title, but I was reluctant to play it out of concern that it would consume way too much of my time. Oh, how right I was. Animal Crossing Wild World on the Nintendo DS was my first game in the series. I started as Peachy in reference to the Japanese form of Peach's name, with my town named Yukata. The creativity and ability to visit other towns intrigued me, as well as the unique hourly music and KK Slider songs. I really enjoyed collecting all of the bugs, fish, fossils, and art for the museum. It was all cute to me and appealed to my artistic side. Years have passed since I abandoned the town, and it since has become overrun completely with weeds. Some villagers really missed me, while others relocated. Yeah, Elvis has left the village. Long lived the king. Others have moved in since, but I took the moving van to where I spent far more of my time. My dedication to Animal Crossing City Folk on the Wii, also called Let's Go to the City, bordered on addiction. As Peach in the new town of Kinoko, I spent every day talking to villagers, hitting bell rocks, and taking the bus to the city. Over the course of a few years, I collected virtually all of the items, including the DLC, and even accrued the maximum bells in my savings account from selling turnips in other towns. The local museum reached 100% completion, filled with all of the bugs, fish, fossils, and art in the game. I even dug up a full set of gyroids, now safe with Brewster. The music was very heartwarming, from the title theme, to the chill piece that played at 8 p.m., to the acoustic stylings of KK Slider. The Harvest Festival theme was a special case. It continued to linger in my head long after playing for hours on end just to find Franklin for all the furniture in the Harvest series. Well, at least it was a fun theme. For a few years, I made sure to visit for every New Year's Eve celebration, but eventually, I stopped playing the title, and for a while, I really missed the daily experience it provided.
Animal Crossing New Leaf was not only my first game in the series, but also my very first Nintendo 3DS game. For a whole year, I played it religiously, picking weeds, talking to the Able sisters, and visiting KK Slider on his Saturday evening performances. Those were all great memories. But one of my favourite parts of the game, from the moment I booted it up that very first time, was the soundtrack. There was something so mellow and comforting about it.
I really enjoyed playing the game too. The experience of visiting people all over the world, playing mini-games with friends, and building up my museum collection all over again was such a positive, familiar feeling. I loved the enhanced music, especially the new hourly themes. It was all so refreshing to hear. When the Welcome Amiibo update arrived, I was ecstatic to play Puzzle League for the Flower Fairy costume set based on Lip from Panel of Pump. Without a doubt, we'll always remember New Leaf fondly.
The Animal Crossing series had several spin-offs since New Leaf. Happy Home Designer on Nintendo 3DS, Amiibo Festival on Wii U, Pocket Camp on mobile devices, and even Sweet Day as an attraction in Nintendo Land on Wii U. But to keep it simple, we'll stick to the mainstream titles in this analysis when addressing the returning music in the latest installment.
Animal Crossing New Horizons released at a time when perhaps the world needed it most. As if symbolic, this 2020 title invites us to a deserted island for a truly fresh start. However, many of the familiar faces that we meet remind us that this is the Animal Crossing that we know and love. The biggest change is the ability to transform the island to make the environment even more personal than before. While the latest installment started as a simpler game compared to New Leaf, it is growing slowly into a more complete experience. It's such a smash hit that it became the second most purchased game in Japan of all time after only 5 months from release.
I believe the game has been one of the finest stepping stones of the franchise. I've had so much freedom to place items the way I like and customize my island the way I want to. My island of Windfall looks so pretty now. I miss some items from the previous games, such as the Nintendo set, but they will likely be added in the future. Much of what made New Leaf great has been appearing in updates after all. I seem to have reached the plateau designing with the current content, but I still find the game very enjoyable and I look forward to regular updates. In fact, I'm pleasantly surprised by what can be done with the freedom at times.
The game came as a complete breath of fresh air for me. It takes so many of the series' staples and completely transforms them. After watching the trailers, I honestly was worried about whether crafting would work in an Animal Crossing game. But here I am, months later, chopping down trees and smashing rocks for crafting materials as if it were the most natural thing in the world. I think that New Horizons perfectly nails that Animal Crossing feel, but it manages to renovate the gameplay enough to feel fresher than ever. What Nintendo created here is nothing short of genius.
I haven't skipped a day playing since March. Collecting new DIY recipe sets, dabbling in home decor, and discovering each daily visitor have kept me pretty entertained. Even my original characters found homes on Kinoko Island to help out. Like in past games, I love watching my museum exhibits develop into beautiful locales. And I'll never forget wishing upon shooting stars and participating in tournaments with our awesome patrons. Ultimately, the new and returning features found in updates such as diving and dreaming keep me coming back for more.
The music of Animal Crossing New Horizons has a welcoming, tropical feel to it, with some funky pieces mixed in. It contains what we consider some of the best arrangements of returning themes yet. Aside from Kazumi Totaka, the soundtrack is the result of the collaboration of several brilliant composers. After having sunk numerous hours into New Horizons, it gives me that exact same feeling as New Leaf did. It's so warm and cozy to me.
Personally, I believe the music captures the feeling of having fun while vacationing on an island very well overall, even if not every hourly theme suits the atmosphere perfectly. But the tropical jazz arrangements of past themes are spot on. It's really entertaining listening to it all on repeat and getting into a groove.
The musical lineup is one of the finest in the series to date, for sure. Hourly music is some of the best I've heard yet, with morning themes being among my favorites. The new Error songs from KK Slider are definite highlights, with the Walk Along tune being far and above the best piece in my book. There are some classy remixes as well, making it all a pretty well-rounded soundtrack.
After starting the game for the very first time, we arrived at the airport counter in preparation for a flight to a deserted island. There, we are greeted by Timmy and Tommy, Tom Nook's nephews. While the twins chat, a jazzy tune plays that may be familiar to those who played New Leaf. It's a simplified variation of the melody, using the first 5 notes of the song that appears in different forms for their shops in the 3DS title. First was Nookling Junction with its modest folk ensemble, followed by the catchy bossa nova of TNT Mart, Super TNT's cool contemporary jazz, the frantic shuffle of the Home and Garden Store TIY, and the jubilant march of TNT Emporium, inspired by the original Lookingtons. Finally, there was the peaceful orchestration that let customers know that the shop was closing for the night.
This iconic melody returns once again in New Horizons for the store they operate, named after their uncle's establishment, Nook's Cranny. The initial construction is simple, with crude walls and flooring and not much to buy. But unlike past shops at this stage, this theme is laid back and inviting, like a meager shop set up at a tourist spot. Nice. After upgrading to the second stage of development, Nook's Cranny looks polished and decorated, offering more items than before. The music representing this renovation is more grounded, with the groovy low bass and presence of horns that tell us that this establishment means business. 10 minutes before closing time, regardless of shop level, we are greeted with a soothing orchestral arrangement, like a lullaby. It's just so relaxing.
The theme of the museum has been a staple of the series since Wild World, with the related tracks from City Folk being virtually identical. Each exhibit room shares a common recurring musical passage, or leitmotif. It all centers on this arpeggio. In New Horizons, Blathers first appears on the island in a tent, requiring more donations to fund the museum itself. The familiar arpeggio and melody are played on improvised instruments, like those found in a jug band. It works for a raw, undeveloped feeling. The museum lobby composition is simpler, but it has an elegant sound with its soft piano and rich bassoon, with slower tempo than the museum lobbies of past installments. It's a great model for the themed exhibits to follow.
In City Folk, the Bug exhibit simply retained the harp arpeggio from the lobby, with no bassoon melody. New Leaf made the same arpeggio quieter and with lower fidelity, leaving the soundscape of insects to fill the frequencies. New Horizons handles this a lot better. In the park area, the mild strumming of the ukulele like a folk guitar is like something you might hear from a musician in the countryside. Given the natural environment of this bog sanctuary with a small grove and river, this seems like a pretty apt compositional choice. Amidst the fountain, potted flowers and hanging plants, the music of the butterfly garden consists of floaty clarinet, harp and sweet violin. It perfectly matches the imagery of many fluttering butterflies in this little slice of paradise. The insectarium consists of various bugs behind glass and an entomology lab. The pizzicato plucked strings and the hollow mallet instrumentation of this arrangement is the musical equivalent to this area's organized enclosed space.
City Folk covered the fish exhibit with the same track as the bug exhibit, having the lonely arpeggio repeat indefinitely. New Leaf ran this through a mild underwater filter, layering it with a vox and echoing plucks for the sound of an aquatic wonderland. Let's compare this to New Horizons. For the freshwater zone, the minimalistic, resonant piano seems intended to evoke the cool feeling of pure H2O, appropriate for the serene emulation of pond and river biomes. The shallows present life just below the ocean surface. The gentle mallet, bell, and pad arrangement captures the beautiful elements of the tranquil ecosystem, such as the flowing seaweed and shimmering coral. The chorused arrangement for the deep feels more spacious, covering an additional octave. The vocal pads and string pads work in unison to represent the great blue and mysterious abyss.
For City Folk, the Fossil exhibit featured drums with heavy reverb and a piano accent, reflecting the grand scale of the reconstructed skeletons. New Leaf's version was roughly the same, only omitting the piano accent. New Horizons takes a very different approach. In the first room with Paleozoic era remains, the music has a minimalistic tribal sound, like echoes of the past. Signifying the earliest age, it's the most distant and bare bones. The largest room contains mostly dinosaurs and other creatures of the Mesozoic era, along with Permian synapsids. The music is more layered here, perhaps with the idea of this being a more recent and great point in history. When standing in the extinction spot, another layer is applied with a sustained, expansive feeling reflecting the scope of the worldwide meteorological event. Representing the Cenozoic era, the final room has mammals from the relatively recent past. As such, the structure of the arpeggio has more meat on the bones, adding inverted fifths. The pads are absent, making this music seem more grounded.
The theme of the art exhibit in City Folk was classy, with a clarinet part as well as a violin played using the same two repeating notes heard in other New Horizons exhibit rooms. New Leaf's version swapped the clarinet with a harpsichord, retaining the violin performed in the same fashion. The art exhibit in New Horizons is built after donating a painting obtained by Jolly Red. It presents a beautiful new arrangement that is luxurious and sophisticated, rich with a harpsichord, violin and oboe. It's ideal for a gallery in which one can reflect upon the brilliance of the paintings and statues of the various artists.
Wild World and City Folk featured a museum observatory operated by Celeste with a tinkling bell theme, and New Leaf introduced custom exhibits with a filtered and distanced piano arrangement. New Horizons does not have equivalents to these facilities, or at least not yet.
The Able Sisters is a tailor shop run by Clark Mabel and seamstress Sable, two hedgehog sisters in business together. They have a third sister, but more on her in a moment. The theme of their original establishment was a quaint one, with an umpar rhythm fitting for shopping at a clothing boutique. In Wild World and City Folk, the theme had a slightly different intro, a peppy clarinet and rhythmic accordion. How charming. For the New Leaf version, the accordion was more pronounced, but the theme was generally the same as before, at least for the room with Mabel and Sable. LaBelle, who worked for Grace as the fashionista's assistant, returned to her sisters to sell accessories. Her theme reflected the designer's chic sense with delicate bells and mallets. New Horizons takes the familiar DNA of the tune and flips it on its head. The accordion rhythm from before has been replaced by tropical guitar and piano syncopation, which fits perfectly in the game's island setting. And rather than a clarinet from before, the main melody is played simultaneously by a flute and an electric piano. But one of the most notable additions is the percussion. Here, a simple electronic drum kit presents a smooth rhythm reminiscent of bossa nova or bolero mambo. Throw in tremolos from mandolin, and you have quite the stylish remix.
Many holidays of the real world have been represented in past Animal Crossing games, but the one that has returned for New Horizons with a familiar musical theme is Bunny Day. Super T Bunny, the mascot with false excitement for the event, first appeared in City Folk with iconic Quikas playing in his vicinity, but a cheerful melody wasn't introduced until New Leaf. The tune would fill the air in replacement of the hourly themes consistently until one approached the Big Bunny himself. At that point, a new layer of familiar Quikas and other bouncy instruments would play on top of the theme. It worked well for a playfully dynamic musical experience. In New Horizons, Zipper heralded Bunny Day in advance, plaguing the water and sky with eggs used for crafting seasonal items. For the holiday itself, the theme received a significant quality boost, with flute and brass performed in expert fashion. Much like before, approaching Zipper would result in an overlay of jolly instruments. It's an enhancement that simply is beautiful and uplifting, like the season of spring.
Red first appeared in Doubutsu no Mori, but the modern theme used for his establishment started in Wild World. There, he ran a dubious tent shop under the moniker Crazy Red, selling potentially forged paintings and goods of unknown origin to those with secret family membership. In City Folk, he ran his shady business in a city building at the end of the West Alley to sell to his favorite cousin. The music had a sort of unsettling vibe for sure. In New Leaf, Red moved back into a tent, adding statues to his inventory. The altered musical instrumentation was of higher quality than the previous two appearances. Even the melody of Red's original theme was added as an Easter egg, last heard in Animal Crossing for the GameCube. Red in New Horizons returns as the new owner of an old fishing trawler, which docks at the northern beach occasionally. Affectionately renaming himself Jolly Red of Jolly Red's treasure trawler, he sells works of art and questionable rare goods like before. The updated theme contains a shakuhachi and dulcimer combo, adding a funky bass and percussion line. This remix really spices things up and makes it seem cool to shop in a shifty outlet like this.
Debuting in New Leaf, Reese and Cyrus ran a recycling shop called Retail for selling off and customizing items. The theme that played included a music box and a marimba that played together like a duet, much like the cute alpaca couple. Reese and Cyrus returned in New Horizons during the June wedding season for anniversary photos at Harv's Island cabin, arranged with our help. The music had a more relaxed pace with tropical jazz guitar strumming and a pick bass. Mallets were played more in unison, with separate parts later, signifying the close bond of the happily married lovers.
The Dream Suite was introduced in New Leaf as a way to view other towns without affecting them, guided there by Luna the Taper. The ambient music flowed like a Zen experience, complete with bell pads, piano, and gamelan bells. These bells were played along the Javanese Pelag scale with modified tuning, which is much like the Japanese Ryukyu scale, but in a different key. In New Horizons, we can sleep in any bed placed in our home to rendezvous with Luna in the dreamscape. The music this time is enhanced with rich pads filling a range of frequencies, crisp synthetic mallets, and gamelan bells. The slower tempo, pitch bends, and spacious sound make this rendition truly dreamlike.
What is an Animal Crossing musical analysis without addressing the musician himself, KK Slider? The theme of Wild World and City Folk makes a return as one of the 3 songs that the guitarist plays when requesting a song that doesn't perfectly match one on his list. Let's have a listen. It is very nostalgic. The live performance of Animal City returns from New Leaf, but this time KK Slider will give an aircheck boot that's true to the original Day version. The special disc the dog musician gives has simpler composition with moderate changes to the instrumentation, such as the change to the accordion lead and a pumping calliope. It's more cute than fancy in this form.
Certainly, there are many themes in New Horizons that have returned, many of them exceptional. With these covered, we now switch focus to our feature presentation, with spotlights on the themes of our shrewd tanuki and adorable shih tzu. Mr. Rossetti! Oops, right, sorry. We'll cover your theme now. Yeah? Alright then. Ever since the first adventure in the forest, Rossetti would show up whenever we reset without saving, scolding us with seemingly endless chatter. His whimsically antagonistic theme has remained virtually the same throughout the years. In New Horizons, Rossetti is nowhere to be seen directly, instead serving as an operator for the Rescue Service hotline. We can call the service using our Nook phone whenever stuck to be whisked away to an approved island landmark. The altered theme has a digital square lead, vocal bass, and a new percussion line appropriate for a phone conversation. It's honestly kind of funny. Is that it? Mr. Rossetti seems to have left, so I think we're ready to move on. Phew, sorry about that, everyone.
Ah, Tom Nook. Whenever someone has need of a home, the resourceful raccoon, or more accurately, Tanuki, is there to lend a paw for a price. Upon meeting him for the first time in Animal Crossing, we were introduced to this languid theme. It wasn't quite the melody we would hear for years to come, but something familiar was there. What became the staple of Tom Nook's theme came from the very place he worked and lived in that game. A shop that seems straight from folklore, Nook's Cranny.
When first arriving at the humble-looking establishment, Tom Nook would be there to give tasks for our part-time job. After running the errands to pay off part of our home debt, we could purchase any of the various items. The music that plays here has the full melody that we know as Tom Nook's theme. The composition starts in F-sharp with tabla drums and pizzicato bass strings, securing the cultural feeling. The melody begins, represented by overlapping mallet and woodwind instruments, playing along the F-sharp Lydian scale, a scale with a raised fourth, giving it an exotic flair. Upon the final note of the melody, the chord shifts down to E before returning to F-sharp. It all has this raw, unrefined feeling bursting with potential.
An equivalent store theme was written for Wild World and City Folk with a similar ethnic flavor. Aside from that, Nook's Cranny was just the first form of the shop in the games, with each successive upgrade being accompanied by a unique theme. Nook and Go on the GameCube with its quirky pop. That served as the forerunner to the Bossa Nova and City Folk. Nookway in its original jazz swing. That led to the Wii titles Contemporary Jazz. And a triumphant march of Nookingtons on the GameCube. With its posh replacement in City Folk. Other takes on the theme have appeared in the series, such as a happy rendition from Wild World and City Folk when discussing payment after selecting a house. And the pensive arrangement for Nook's homes in New Leaf, among others. Wherever there's Animal Crossing, Tom Nook and his theme are almost certain to appear.
Isabel, the lovable pup who originally served as secretary and assistant mayor, first appeared in New Leaf. After welcoming the first player to arrive in town and mistaking the traveller as the newly elected mayor, she led the way to the town hall. While talking with the sprightly Shih Tzu in the government building, we heard this lively music containing the melody that is Isabel's theme. It's a memorable piece with counter-melody and unique content near the end, but it's not the only one designed to be a reflection of her theme. After some initial preparations, we could save the game at any time. From that point forward, Isabel would greet us after the title screen with the option to load the game or change settings. The distinct, light-hearted composition focuses on the core of Isabel's theme. Set in F major, a mallet plays the melody in swung note style this time, adding grace notes, and the bass alternates with offbeat clarinets. After the cadence and bell accent, the repeated melody sharps the F note at the apex chord. Remember this for later. Finally, it all ends with a satisfying snap. Together, these various elements give the piece personality. Cute!
At the outset of the island's development, Tom Nook operates resident services within a tent in the plaza, with his nephews Timmy and Tommy helping out. It's where we can learn crafting, purchase and sell items, and use the Nook Stop machine to access our catalog and savings. The mellow tropical tune that plays consists of Tom Nook's theme, carried by a synth lead amidst ukulele strumming and simple percussion. At this stage, Tom Nook makes daily announcements, but you can also find him in the settings area, accessed from the title screen. In both cases, a relaxing jazz version of the theme plays, maintaining the vacationing vibe as heard throughout the game.
After meeting the requirements, the Resident Services tent undergoes reconstruction into a full-fledged permanent building. For this great change, Isabelle is brought on board to help out, including taking over daily announcements with her animated personality. Isabelle's theme returns, presented similarly to Tom Nook's arranged theme.
Inside the Resident Services building itself, Tom Nook and Isabelle work in unison to provide services to residents. This location is the equivalent of Town Hall from the past games. The music that plays incorporates both Tom Nook's theme and Isabelle's.
In F major, a Latin jazz rendition of Isabelle's theme plays using acoustic guitar and piano, with syncopated strumming covered by a different acoustic guitar. This melody is the same as in the source, but without sharping that one F note at the apex chord.
Repeating a similar chord progression, an electric piano plays Tom Nook's theme, embellishing it with some grace notes. The guitar strumming, bass, and simple percussion follow the same techniques as before in order to maintain the flow. Towards the end is a freestyle blues call and response atop 7th chords, reminiscent of the Town Hall music from Wild World and City Folk. It's all a delightful marriage of the themes tied up in a style fit for the island life.
And with that, we've come to the end of this melodious journey. We had a great time exploring the returning themes, and that's good reason to celebrate. Animal Crossing New Horizons sure is full of tropical jazz arrangements of our favorite classics, and as KK Slider would put it, a whole lot of groovy tracks. And for a game that is made to help you relax on an island and hang out with friends for hours on end, the soundtrack delivers. We're excited to hear what the composers will arrange next in the various updates to come. Many thanks go to Thomas from Thomas Game Docs for collaborating with us and providing the amazing reprise heard at the end of this video. Check the description to see how you can follow and support him. May you all have grand adventures in Animal Crossing New Horizons.
Goodbye, everyone.
See ya!
That's all for this episode of Melodies of Gaming. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this musical analysis, consider giving it a like and let us know which reimagined game music you would like us to examine in the comments below, and we may feature it in a future episode. Please be sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell if you haven't yet. And of course, stay tuned to Game Explain for more Melodies of Gaming and other things gaming too. Until next time, ciao.